Oh, yeah. It is playoff time, baby. Wild card weekend is upon us. We are 2 days away from the Seattle Seahawks, San Francisco 49ers rivalry matchup, playoff style. This one's going to be a barn burner. And I got my friend Brandon to talk about it all next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And here we are behind enemy lines. You see this familiar face. It's funny to say right before we hit the intro, my friend Brandon. I don't have many, if any, friends that are Seahawks, but Brandon, I consider you a friend, my guy. I appreciate you.
E2. And it's the same as right back at you, man. Like I love intelligent football discussion. Anytime that we've been able to connect up, we've been able to get into that, and that's the depths where I'm most happiest as a football fan. So proud to call you a friend and a bud, man. And appreciate you allowing me to come back in. I know this week right now it's some touchy area, so I appreciate you being able to have me in your house. I know you're even more untrusting than Hawk fans than ever. You're like, "Has he got any knives on him? Did somebody check him for guns? Did you check him? No, okay."
Yeah, did you go through the metal detector before you came on the channel? I'm curious.
I've got that move. Do you ever see in the movie where the guy's got the gun? He goes, remember the old school movie where they goes past the old school metal detectors and he takes it out of his pocket, walks through and throws it through the one side of the metal detector and catches it on the other side. I did that move on your guy. And look, I don't know. I mean, it's California, you know, you're like with us, you guys get the legalized, you know, things. Yeah, just like, you know, I got through. That's all I'm saying. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, listen, man, we got to get into it. We got a ton to talk about, and I'm just so curious to figure out what is going in Hawkland, what's happening over there. I know the pulse of 49er fans, but you have been streaming all week, and it's funny because I was in your chat probably, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and at that time we still obviously didn't have a picture of if the Seattle Seahawks would make it, what that was going to look like, and a lot of people would have remembered me when I had commented and they go, "Hey, we want this rematch. We're hunting you guys down." I'm like, "Well, you know, the Lions are there, the Packers, like it's going to be tough for y'all to get in, but you know, we'll take it." And sure enough, here we are. So now that we are finally here, what is the pulse of Hawks fans this week? Like what are you seeing and hearing? How's everybody feeling about this matchup?
Well, I think first off, everyone's feeling like it's all gravy. Right? Like we're getting a couple extra cherries on top of our sundaes here this particular year in a lot of variety of ways. And so expectation levels is not at a point of where anybody's walking to this thinking that this is a, you know, do or die game for a front office or head coach or for the future of the team or any of that. Everybody feels mighty good about this year, regardless of this outcome. But at the same point in time, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think I told it to you at the last time we were fighting. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a point down the road. I don't know. Call it a psychic inclination. Call it just a feeling in the wind, whatever you may. But there was a feeling of like, we're going to come back around to facing you guys again. This story's not quite yet done. This book isn't over yet. We haven't closed it up. It may sound, I think, for hearing that from a Niner fan perspective of, oh, so you don't have any respect for the fact that we beat you, you know, beat the brakes off you a couple times and, you know, took it to you. And you just think you're. It's not that. It's not that. I'd argue in this one point and along this lines of things, if there can be a point of, rather than it being about, you know, East Coast people that you'll hear talk about like how New York people will talk about Philly people or something, right? Where there's just like, they talk about like a different breed of person or something. It's not the way this is looked at. It's looked like there's a lot of respect, I think, from our side of it to the San Francisco organization and what you guys have done. We do consider your most hated rival. We do want to see you guys fail. That's absolute. It doesn't come from a place of anything personal, though. It just comes from if anything, kind of a respectful standpoint, I think, in this. But we do want to take it to you. We do want this matchup. If I got to take my pick of anybody that I'm going to get in this draft, I want you guys. I want to go through you guys right now, step up and go. Maybe you take it to us, maybe, but we'll take our chances. We'll take our chances and let this ride. I like the puncher's chance that we get walking into this game, be what that ever it may.
I feel it, and I'm totally open to it. I don't look at it as a sign of disrespect. I look at it as the ultimate sign of respect. Like, hey, if we're going to go through anybody, if we're going to get an upset win, why not against a heated rival? Why not against a division rival? And for the 49ers, I mean, listen, playoffs, Seattle, we owe you some get back now. There was a time where Navarro Bowman was getting popcorn thrown on him when he got injured, and all these crazy things. We don't forget these things as 49er fans. Now, obviously, that game had much higher stakes. It was an NFC championship, and we'll never forget the whole Sherman Crabtree situation. But this one would feel good to get back. So us as Niner fans, it is a hatred thing, but it's also a respect thing. Like, hey, if we can beat Seattle, even though we expect to, it'll feel a lot better than if we had beaten, let's say, the Lions. You know what I mean? This one means a little bit more.
I agree with you. That's what I'm saying with it too. I'm glad to hear you guys feel the same way with it. And so it does. I think the way you put it, hate and respect. If you can come with parts of that at this point, we're coming with that. It's like, okay, respect you, but just internal hatred as well. We wish you all with downfall and you don't get anywhere no more.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Respect.
Well, let's talk about some disrespect, because I would think this is a topic of discussion amongst Seahawks fans.
Mm-hmm.
The point spread, 10 points. I mean, I don't care what the matchup is for a playoff game. That's a lot of points to lay. And especially in a game with some weather and all these other things. What are you guys thinking about the point spread? Do you feel like it's disrespectful? Do you feel like it's right where it should be? Have you guys talked about it? What's the conversation there?
I mean, it is a little bit. When it comes to Vegas, I don't really look at Vegas and what they do with it, because they're in the business of making money, and they're not going to play. They're not going to play, let's say, the same kind of shenanigans that the media will sometimes play, in the lack of respect given or what they think. And let's not forget here, there's a whole lot of people, and I would include that there's a lot of those in Niner country who were saying the same thing this offseason when Russell Wilson was moved on from, saying, oh, they're dead and buried now. They're gone. This franchise ain't going to be around now, but maybe another 10 years from now, we'll see him. Let's wait on that, shall we? And so, when I hear, it's not as much with me from the Vegas standpoint of things. It's as much somewhat from a lot from the national media, a little bit. Some, though, coming from what I'm hearing with some of the Niner country on this stuff, where I'm hearing a pretty loud voice coming from it, where it's like, I'm hearing that same lack of, we talk about respect. I'm hearing a lack of respect vibes coming out of Niner Nation this week, as far as saying, well, this will be an easy walk. We got to slip and slide straight downhill, no impediments whatsoever, right to the Super Bowl. And I mean, can we call Seattle a speed bump? Do we even have to play our starters, really? Should we limit snaps? Should there be a rotational basis here? I feel like as we go through this week, Jesse, it's going and evolving into that direction. And I got to feel like standing here where I'm looking, I'm going, I'm not feeling like that's respect. And I'm not feeling like that's a respect for the process and understanding, as well as understanding that, look, getting to the Super Bowl is kind of tough. Doesn't matter the opponent. Doesn't matter what year it is. Doesn't matter how good you feel about your team at the end of the year. Doesn't matter which conference you're in or how bad what you think you're going up against as far as the competition goes. Doesn't matter. That stuff all kind of gets thrown out the window. Now we're into the playoffs. It's a little bit of a different land. And while I say this saying, Jesse, you guys are the favorites to go, I think, to the Super Bowl right now. You are, I think, a tougher matchup than any other team right now in this conference that we could be facing right now. So again, the respect is there for my part, but I don't know if some of what I've heard from Niner Nation this week just sounds like you have every right to be proud about your team. You have every right to feel good about your team, but have respect for the process before you and get into those Super Bowls, right? 90 was the last time you guys got there and won. You did get there a couple years ago. I'll give you that. You got there 10 years ago. So you guys are probably used to this a little bit and at least getting there, but it gets hard. It gets harder when the bullets get live, we're not firing blanks. We're not, this ain't regular season time. Now it's for real. So we'll see. That's the part though that really stands out to me with it as much as anything. It feels like a little from my side, like, oh, we have no right to be here. Oh, we're just lucky to be here. But okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I think what you're hearing is absolutely fair. I think the talk coming from 49er fans going into the last weekend was, okay, Green Bay is probably the team we don't want to play, even though we tend to own them in the playoffs. It's always Aaron Rodgers doesn't have any pressure in this game. And then it's like, well, the Lions offense is super explosive. They're coached really well. And then it was like, I hope we get Seattle. And now that it's here, I would agree. I mean, I think that we're very confident, and it might be, to your point and Hung Meow's point, we might be arrogant. We might get upset. And, that's just something that we're going to have to deal with. And I promise you that the arrogance if the 49ers lose, it will come back to bite us because we will hear it all under the sun, and deservedly so. I mean, let's just be real. We would deserve it because I think we are very arrogant about this game. I would agree with that.
Well, and I was telling Niner and your Niner folks were being very, for the most part, there's always a couple trolls come in, but last night on our stream, especially a lot of people being really kind coming in there. So props to those guys. But I told them this. I said, look, my predictions on this, and what I'm saying is not that we're going to win them, but this whole thing that we're going to lose by 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns things, you can throw that to the wind. This is going to be a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. You better believe it. And if I'm wrong about that, I'll eat crow Saturday as I stream through 10 hours of the day, having to listen to it from every single 49er fan entering my chat through that time period. You better believe it, and I won't walk away or shy away from it. But I'm taking receipts. I'm taking receipts this week. I'm taking receipts on all I'm hearing about how easy this matchup is on it. And I've heard a lot. And okay, because get ready what I'm going to have to come. If it is a win, I'm going to be one of those most toxic Seahawks fans. You guys have loaded this up. It could have been just like, hey, respect to you. It'll be a tough matchup. Like 2 fighters. You in UFC, you got the UFC history, right?
Yeah.
2 fighters, and you get one like, we're kind of Nurmagomedov over here, man. You know, we're just like, you're kind of guys are being with the Connor thing, like, oh, we got it. What are you guys going to do? It's like, okay.
We're throwing dollies at buses and everything.
You are. Yeah, a little bit. I'm sorry. You're being a little wild with it, and you got a right to be. I'm not saying you don't have a right to be. If you have the season you guys put together, if you do what you do with plenty, you have every right to be. And when you go out and you win the Super Bowl, you get to put one like extra hammer exclamation point onto it with having that kind of swagger getting to that point. But if we get you in the first round, I'm just saying.
All is fair in love and war. And Brandon, you're my guy. So if you want to clip up any of my shows this week and replay it if they lose and say, hey, look at the cocky Niner fans, I'll be more than happy to oblige. I won't say it's copyright infringement or anything. We would deserve it. We would deserve it. That's totally fair.
Same true with me. I'm sure I was popping off last night when I got into my bag. So if you got something on that, go for it. Go crazy on mine too.
Megan tapping in. I remember when I was on your channel, she had said a story about when she was much, much younger, how she was a 49er fan. It was basically the only team that was on TV where she lived. And, you know, as she got older and kind of got to choose her team, she chose the Seahawks. But she says she is glad she rescinded her 49ers membership, and let's go Seahawks. Megan, shout out to you. You're always great.
Go, Megan. What's up? Good to see you in the chat. It's my girl.
Gammon says, we're not arrogant. We just forgot how to lose.
I rest my case.
Gammon.
Yes, Your Honor, I rest my case. I don't need any final arguments for the jury.
Yeah, listen, Gammon, this clip right there, me reading that and laughing, that's what's going to be thrown on the show. So just be ready for it, is all I'm saying. We're both going to be put on 4K.
I'm going to have a super dramatic music behind it. I'm just rubbing my hands like, please, Hawks, just give me this one. Give me this one.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the game, and I'm curious to know. I know that since we played last a couple weeks ago, that Jordan Brooks is out for the season. That's a big loss for y'all, I believe. You know, you're at least going into the season, I felt like him and Adams were kind of the names that people knew. Quandre Diggs, those were the guys on defense. Like, okay, if these guys can step up and have big seasons, the defense might be all right. Well, you lost Adams early. Quandre Diggs is always Quandre Diggs. Obviously, guys like Woolen have stepped up, but you know, losing a player like that, even if he wasn't playing at his best, still it's a name and a guy that I think would be important to the team. But overall, injury report wise, what is it looking like for the Seahawks? Are you guys banged up? You guys healthy outside of that? What are you guys seeing from reports?
Well, I think the Jordan Brooks one's one of those. He's one of those tough players in the evaluation of it. And I'd ask you just on the face of it, if I told you about a prospect at the middle linebacker position that you were picking, and I said to you going in the draft, you have a guy that's a really good run stuffing linebacker. I mean, he's rangy, he can fill the hole, he can hit, but he is an absolute catastrophic horror when it comes to coverage. What is the value of that player in a given draft on that basis alone? In general terms.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably 4th, 5th round flyer.
You say, and this is one of those things where on the night he was drafted, I literally had my notebook of notes, showed it to my stream of, I had a 5th round grade on Brooks because my evaluation on him that night fit true to what he is as a player. And it's not that he isn't a value player, but this is where I got to push back on him necessarily being a good player. Because I think you just did some math there that's very important on this. I have a player that stops the run in this modern age of passing that's good, but it's still a passing league. And in that first matchup with that first touchdown, who blew their coverage? Who got broken in that first coverage on Kittle? Was that Jordan Brooks? That's right.
Yep.
It was Jordan Brooks. And so if you look at him on a weekly grade that matches, the eye test matches this to what you see on like the PFF scores, which I don't lean on wholly, but they match up with what you see on this, where every week he comes through and the tackle grades will be relatively okay. The run grades will be relatively okay, but then the coverage grades are catastrophic. 90 snaps in his final year in college without a single pass broken up or defensed. He looked lost in zone coverage, going to a zone-based coverage team. Your team just last time attacked that very manner by which he's flawed in. And we've still, when he's been in there throughout this year, had some struggles against the run anyway. So how much of a benefit is that run stuffing ability really being brought to the team at this point? How much of a loss is it really with him out of this game versus Tanner Muse, who in that very same game against your Niners a couple weeks ago was a much more highly graded player in that game after Brooks went out with his neck injury, and who's been a higher graded player at middle linebacker since he did go down. I'm sorry to give you the long answer on that one, but that's, I think, a little bit of one that takes a little bit more to unpack on that particular one. Ryan Neal's the key here. We needed him to come back at strong safety. He was a boon. He was actually one of the best safeties kind of quietly in the National Football League this year. Doesn't get a lot of hype with it, but he really stepped in there for Adams after he had gotten back from injury about a quarter of the way through the year. Really stepped forward and was actually impactful for us. He's got a nose for the ball. He's a good player in that respect. So getting him back in this game is very, very important. So overall, the injury situation, at least defensive side of the ball, is pretty good. Aside from that, I don't think that we're down anybody substantial. Edge guys are there. Defensive line's pretty much ready to roll outside of Brian Monet, of course, who went down to an ACL, but he wasn't giving us a ton necessarily. Offensive side, it gets a little dicey there. We've got Phil Haynes down, so we're going to take out the gray beard, Gabe Jackson. He's going to come out there and try to make a go for a whole game. He's definitely going through his last year, I think, in this league at right guard. And then we are out Eskridge, who was our former 2nd-round pick, who hasn't done a whole lot anyway, so his losses. But we're also down Goodwin, who's been actually a very good player for us out of the slot this year. Him being out is going to be also something that we got to kind of overcome in this game, and is definitely hurt with his absence this season. So that's pretty much it overall. So we're not in horrible shape injury wise. We're not in great shape, but we're okay, all things being considered, I guess, this time of year.
Yeah, and Neal, if I read correctly, his knee kind of swelled up and locked up on him after the 49er game. Is that correct?
I believe so. I mean, he's been dealing with a variety of things, shoulder, knee. So I'm sure with them, they've been trying to just get that stuff to quiet down. And he's a warrior. I mean, the kid's been, he's not a highly drafted kid, comes here, one of those self-made kind of players, but the nose for the ball has been there since day one with him when he's coming off the bench. And it's been surprising. I did not expect him to have this kind of level of impact he did when he came in. I thought we were going to be just holding on for dear life at the strong safety position this year. And instead, again, he's been, maybe you could make the argument, I know this sounds crazy to say, you could make the argument he's been our best defensive player this year.
Yeah, that's big. That's really, really big. Did you, I didn't have this on my questions, but your left tackle, his name's slipping my mind right now. Cross. That's right. I don't know if you caught this, but Brett Coleman, who's one of the best content creators in the business, he put together a video on Nick Bosa and talked about how he's defensive player of the year. And he was breaking down the Seahawks film. And he said that Cross has a tell that Bosa picked up on and knew basically what was coming as far as how he was going to defend Bosa or protect his quarterback. I'm curious to see if anybody in Seahawks land had heard about that, if it was ever brought to the attention to anybody, because that sounds like a pretty big deal if that is the case.
It did get brought up.
Okay.
I think it's been addressed because I haven't seen it come through in any other games. I haven't been watching for it necessarily as closely as of yet, because that was really the only game he's had so few games that he's had it given to him, like that game with Bosa, where, he just really was having his moments of looking like a rookie in his first year, kind of figuring things out. Most of the time he's not necessarily been dominant. He's just done his job throughout the course of the season overall. And so it hasn't been as much a part. Admittedly, I didn't do as much of a deep dive because it caught me in the middle of just going, you know how this stuff goes, head down, and you're just trying to get through stuff. But it was a story that was brought up. And I'm sure that I think unlike the answer that you got in your situation is, it doesn't matter. I'm sure the coaches quickly cleaned it up. I would be very surprised if we come through this game at this point and that's not been dealt with. I think, and in fact, if you really want to get into that, Jesse, that very well could be a bit of an answer to your question from a proverbial angle of, okay, let's remove the bias from this. Let's remove the, I'm just seeing this, calling this out, that I'm seeing this in trend. And you guys are getting a little bit, me doth thinks you protest too much and you're pushed back on me for saying this. So let's see another NFL team that has a player that's saying he's showing a tell, and then let's see how they react to it. And if they clean it up and take it away, well, then that does kind of tell me the answer to whether or not it matters or not, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it does. And, we talked about it last time I was on your show. We certainly had a similar situation, but I digress. All right. Well, Jim Everett here has a question about the rain, or I would say more of a statement about the rain. And I have a question about the rain.
Yes.
How do you think it impacts this game? Have you guys talked about it? Like, is it, it rains a lot in Seattle. It rains in the Pacific Northwest. So it's not like this is a surprise to y'all. It's not like you haven't played in this. It's not like you don't know these elements. And I would think that Seahawks fans feel like this is an advantage to them, no?
I don't know if I'd think it's an advantage. I guess I would just say this because I see this. I look at it like this. And I give him credit, at least saying 49ers in the rain, no chance, Seahawks win. we would think theoretically have a little bit. I think rather than it being an advantage to either team, what I think it does is I do think this is why I think it's as much as anything a one-score game getting into the end of the game, because you're going to get a game slopped up. You're going to game from slopped up, probably goes low scoring, from low scoring, probably close at the end of the game. Nobody's really going to go outside of it at that point. We just got done playing in a game in rain this past week. We played in a lot of rain throughout the course of this year. You guys have too. You played it back-to-back weeks at the start of the year in rain. I am glad to hear he mentioned this from a Niner fan perspective, because that was one of those things of like cognitive dissonance you were saying from Niner fans through this week, where I pay attention to see what Niner fans were saying after week 2. I watch what's happened through my division and people, and I remember what people were saying after the Chicago game. Was like, monsoon, man. It just leveled the playing field, man. That's what held us back. What can we do in those kind of conditions? And then this week it's now like monsoon, no problem. And that's where I go, hold on. Week two, it was the mighty monsoon. Now it's a trickle.
Yeah.
I'm hearing cyclone, but no. Okay. Again, that's where, to me, that's that whole thing. I'm trying to step back and I'm going, okay. I'm like a German Shepherd, when the German Shepherd, okay. Okay. I get it though. That makes sense. That seems, what is the word I'm trying to look for?
No, it's I don't know if it's ironic, but it's definitely double talk. I get what you're saying. Gray Fox says, Brandon, how is Walker's ankle doing? Is he playing? He has been playing. I will say that. I think since the 49er game, he's gone over 100 yards every single game since then. Also, as a 49er fan, I have learned to never underestimate the Seahawks. Call it PTSD or whatever. Divisional games are weird.
They just are weird. I mean, I know you've probably heard enough of this. I'm not going to beat it to death. I don't think it's in itself enough of a big stat. Like this in itself isn't enough for me to go like, well, this is why we win. But of course, you've heard the axiom. It's hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year in the same year. It just is. And I was trying to do a deep dive. There's not a lot of information on this. You got to do the hard deep dive to like find the times that this has happened in recent history. But my memory on this is usually pretty good on my memory recall with this type of stuff, Jesse. And I would say that you're looking at probably that third game where the team that's been 0-2 is coming back probably like 70% of the time, coming back and winning those games. I'm guessing on that. Maybe I could be wrong, and I'd love to see if I can, jump into that a little bit. But beyond that, division games, like he says, are weird. That's the thing to me of why you see so many Niner fans go, we're going to just easily win this one. It's like, well, you got the elements. That's going to level the playing field. That just naturally does. Then you've got the fact that it's a divisional matchup. Third time we're playing. You're not going to trick us with anything. We've seen everything you guys got on it. So, I mean, no, Shanahan's brilliant. There's maybe something he'll have up his sleeve somewhere, but not on a consistent basis, playing and play out, right? So that's going to level the playing field, right? That's where I come from. And it's as much as like, well, I think my Hawks will come in and do this. Well, it's much like, oh, well, wait, as much as these other factors coming in with how I do feel good about my team too, in addition to that. But that's to me what makes this leveled up. But I'm glad to hear Gray Fox and a few others aren't there necessarily in that. I've definitely heard a lot on the other side of it going, yeah, this ain't gonna be nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, and I could be wrong on this. Somebody in the chat will fact check us. I actually think it's the team that is started 2-0 actually wins the third game more than they lose. However,
could be wrong.
This is a division game, and I think that's where things might change up, because the 49ers were actually in the same exact situation last year in the NFC Championship, and they lost. So to me, I think, anytime that there's that division game, it obviously makes it tough. Obviously, the only way you're going to play a team 3 times in a season is division, but I want to say that it goes the other way. I could be wrong too, though. So somebody in the chat smarter than us, can you fact check that?
Chat, get on it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's got to be some fact checkers out there for us that can keep us honest here, because I am curious now. Because you said it the other way. I'm like, I could have sworn I read it, but we both got strong gut instincts on this, and we both know both our instincts are pretty usually right. So that's why we're both. I really want to know too. I do, because I do feel like it's been in the past when this and it could be just too recency bias, because like you said, it could be last year's Niners Packer thing going down, and Rammers with the Rams where you beat them twice in the regular season and then lose in the playoffs, where I'm going, oh, it's that I'm just remembering. So it's that just happened recently, so it's stuck in my brain. That's definitely is potentially what it is too. I want to say, you know what though, it's been a while, and I think the last time I checked was years ago, and it was like when Dallas and Philly were playing in the playoffs again, type of thing. So it could have changed since then.
And remember, those always have to be 3 times in a row. It has to be a division matchup.
Yeah, it has to be. They
all have to be. So, like, if it's a third time you're playing them, it ain't, well, they're in my conference or something. It's been, no, you've already definitely been within that division, which, again, that equalizer of those division matchups, because the players talk about this. This isn't contestable. Players not in every division and all walks of sports and all will tell you, like, well, yeah, you play them a lot. The familiarity there, you know them. There ain't they speak to that often, and it's a real thing. I think it's like, well, then here, let me just do a little bit, Jesse. When they say, well, what about the week 2 matchup, right? When they go, well, we got you guys as a blowout in that particular game, which would be true. It was a blowout. But again, what was the parameters coming to that game? You got Seattle on a Monday Night Football game coming in on a short week after having what they were going to think was like that was their Super Bowl at that time for Denver, right? And then they're going on the road to play the Niners in the rain, which this is why I don't think the rain's necessarily the great advantage to us, because you guys did beat us in the rain in that first time. But we also did some wonky things in that game, like have running backs trying to throw down near the goal line, which I don't expect them to probably do, once again. But that's a little bit more of why I don't think that game's going to probably play a little bit more out closer to what the last matchup was, where it's a little bit tighter throughout, because of the fact that we're going to be up for this one. It ain't going to be we just came off what we thought was going to be our biggest win. You guys were, by the way, as well in that game, of course, coming off that Bears loss. So you guys were really amped up to get that win at that time, because everybody was like, is the season going to be done? Is it, did his Lance? You're the Lance talk after it, all that stuff, right? I don't have to tell you. So that's why, again, this is going to be a tight matchup. He asked Walker, by the way. Walker is going to play. I think he's got a foot thing that he's been dealing with, I've heard, going way back, which worries me. My big worry with him is the Liz Franck. That's the one that can be devastating to those running backs, especially. So I'm hoping it's not something like that, but the fact that he's playing through it, it doesn't mean to me, I guess, that he's injuring it more. I would hope so. I guess that part's good, but he's phenomenal, dude. That kid's real good. Real good.
So I just found an article from, this is 2018. So obviously we know it's happened at least one time since then, but it says since the 1970 merger, 20 teams have had to face a divisional opponent in the playoffs after beating them twice in the regular season. 13 of those teams have won the third matchup, meaning 65% of the teams that were 2-0.
I had it wrong. I had it opposite. You were right. Jesse got me on this one.
Oh, here it is. So it's happened. It's actually happened 3 times since. So 14-9 is the record. So in favor of the team that swept in the race. So it's, closed up a little bit, but
it's not what I thought it was, though. That's far off what I thought with it. So sweeping team gets
so
it.
Now we're definitely winning. No,
now it's like you got a 55% chance of winning. The nerds have spoken. on that one. Thank you for looking that up, by the way, though. That must have been kind of, I tried to look it up. It was a little bit buried. So good on you.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy one to find. I was trying to do it during the whole conversation. I was trying to prolong it so I could find it. Yeah.
Doesn't that make you mad when you're like, we're in this age and I can't do this thing where I can ask Siri for anything, but I can't get you to, it's like, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. Keith, I'm sorry, man. You super chatted twice and both of them were kind of late. I got to them late, but you had asked about the weather. And then you said, I can't stand the rain in Missy Elliott voice. Do you have the trash bag on as well? Like the whole, yeah.
It's my window. I can't stand the rain.
God, I can't stand that song now. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Keith. I appreciate it. And then he comes back and he says teams have English is hard. Teams have best team 3 in a season 17 times. Yeah, we just saw the stats. So it's I apologize. I'm a little late on the super chats. Gammon says Seahawks look both dominant and awful versus the run. Yeah. Okay. I mean, maybe you can shed some light.
He's not wrong. The running game is going to be an interesting one on this one. And we'll probably get to kind of some keys in the game here in a second with it. But yeah, it's a big part of us stopping the run with you guys is going to be big. I think getting Purdy to have to throw the ball and relying on his arm, especially having pushed the ball up the field, especially in those elements, I would like to challenge in that way. I'd like to get that. And that's, I think, stacking the box is a helpful way of doing that, but you got to just play better defense as well. Keep your gap integrity, and not get blinded. You got to just, handle this tough Niner rushing attack. On the other side of it, our running game has a little bit of ebbs and flows to it. I mean, Walker's got a little bit of that home run or, -1, 2 yards home run, right? He gets a little bit of that going for him, but he is still a very dangerous back. The thing you like about him is he is a home run guy where you can struggle offensively and bam, he breaks one open at 7 points all of a sudden. He's got that legitimate just quickness and speed to him that we've been able to see, and he doesn't have to have it blocked up right to make it go. So that part does make them difficult. And if Homer's playing, he's been running really well behind as well. The line has been blocking a little bit better in the run game. And I think with Walker too, as being a rookie, he's starting to kind of, even those running backs that are rookie, they say that, well, they're always ready to hit the ground running and they know everything about, they just get that production going. They're still learning too, right? They're still in that rookie of understanding all of the interests. I can't say that word, but all of the little details, the little simple word, in order to get things right and where they need to be and how to choose a hole. They did this last week with it, where they're like, Carroll had to tell them in the second half, okay, just not as much dance, just take it into the hole and go. It looks like it's there. He did. They got an effective game out of him. I think over 100 yards in that. So that's the pathway for us, man. We got to run. We need that balance. We need to control that time possession better than we have in the first two matchups.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Chris Hansen, chill out a little bit. Okay. I love your work. I love your work and catching predators. You do a good job there, but take it easy on Megan. I know she's a Seahawks fan, but she's very, very nice. All right. Very, very nice. So
yeah, Megan's
chat,
cool.
Listen, the one rule I have about the chat is challenge the argument, not the person. So keep it respectful, y'all. Keep it respectful.
Well said.
Let me make sure I didn't miss anything here. I thought I saw one.
Hang in there, Megan.
Hang in there. Yeah. It's like a 12-round fight, Megan.
It's going to be one of these weeks, Meg. She's not used to this guy. It's not used to it. It gets a little deeper with this right now, Meg. It's just going to be, we're going to be losing maybe a finger or toe or two here in this. We got to strap it in.
Absolutely. Ominous says Essie, because apparently he thinks I don't have a jump shot. He just left the J off my name. The team that is 2-0 against another team, if they played the third time at home, they are 12. Okay. See, you guys, listen, you guys are coming through. You guys are coming through. We got the answer, but y'all are coming through for sure. I appreciate y'all.
I was wrong. I was wrong. It was me.
They just want to hear you say it over and over, apparently. Actually, this was a topic I had for a little bit later, but I'm going to skip it up because you just talked about it. You just mentioned his name. I'm going to call him the boogeyman because you mentioned his name. But Brock Purdy, what is the overall thoughts from Seahawks fans? Do they think it's like, hey, it's a glass slipper type thing, he's going to turn into a pumpkin? Do they really respect his game? Like, how are they feeling about Brock Purdy?
I haven't really gotten a lot of a feel for it, for where people's real opinion seems to stand on it overall with him for the most part. I think that if you were to really boil it down, they feel like this gives us more of an opportunity to beat you with first being Garoppolo in there. I think if that's what you're looking at as far as like distilled down to kind of a bottom line, they'd say if this was Garoppolo in this game, we'd be more, I would feel less of a chance of winning. I think that I can speak a little bit personally where I think on this, which is that I've had a developing opinion here more and more that this overinflation of the quarterback value has reached a point where it's kind of gone overspill, and that really that you can get solid enough play around good working parts that you don't always have to have the prime guy back there to do it, or the guy that can make all the throws, or the guy that's essentially there to carry the team, or a high volume passing attack. I think certainly Shanahan and the organization you're in there with bringing Garoppolo in the first place was acknowledging that, even though they did pay him to the contract and stuff, it wasn't to go out there and look for that guy that was the essence, so to speak. Now they end up diving back to Trey Lance, of course. They kind of flip-flopped on that one a little bit. But Purdy does, to me, show you, like Geno Smith on our side of this, Jesse, right? Where it's a guy coming in that everybody's got 39th rated value court, but give him a couple of receivers on the outside. Give him some tight ends. Give him some decent play on the offensive line. Give him some running backs that are dynamic. Oh, looks functional. Looks decent. Yeah. And wow, isn't that amazing? And this is my growing argument right now. It's one of my pet theories that continues to move on here, which is that in the team that is in the evolving state looking forward, not right now, but looking into that 5-year future, it's the understanding that minimize down a little bit of the quarterback position, raise up the rest of the team around it, get those parts all really fully injected through. And then that's the type of team that's going to go get you a Super Bowl now, rather than having to always be down to this, rely on the quarterback, paying 50, 55, 60 million, 250 million, fully guaranteed, 275 million, 6 fully guaranteed. No, let's pull that. There needs to be like a rubber band slap going back the opposite way from that. It's due. And I think Purdy's a little bit of the symptom of that. And now, does that mean that I think he's going to be the next Tom Brady, like you 49er fans are saying, Jesse? Look, he's playing good football. Has he been challenged yet? Has he been put up with his back truly against the wall here and tested in a way that I'd like to see a seventh round rookie quarterback tested? No, I don't think he has. Would I like to see my Seahawks stack the box this week and put him under pressure a high amount of the time on their way to stopping the run? You absolutely better believe it. I do. I think that would be the perfect way to go. Last time you guys played us, he started out 11 for 11.
He did.
And then what happened? Seahawks for the first time, and this is something that's drove me crazy about my defense. Seahawks for the first time brought a blitz up there. So, okay, let's blitz. Let's try something. Like, let's not just do the 4-man fronts. Here we go. Yeah. You bring up the extra guy. What happens? Incompletion. He gets a little bit, got a little bit of pressure. Oh, that kind of worked. Next play, what do? Stacked box, right? Don't bring a blitz. Drop back out into coverage. What happens with him? Blitz. Oh, wait, it's not a blitz. Oh, look, you confused a rookie who couldn't tell whether it was a blitz or not. This sometimes doesn't have to be overthought too much, right? It's a rookie. This is why I say Bill Belichick's had the kind of history that he's had. He hasn't really overthought it all that much. It comes down to, I'm already a guy that likes to blitz. I'll be willing to blitz. I'm going to really like to blitz up against your rookie quarterback, and I'm going to take them apart piece by piece over the course of a day. And that's what we've got to do this upcoming week with Purdy. And I think it's not out of line to say that that's absolutely feasibly possible with the guy that is a 7th round guy that's going to have, look, I watched the last game. He's got some arm limitations, man. In pushing the ball up the football field, it ain't there. He can be accurate on the short stuff. He can be accurate on the move. He can move well. It's not to say he's without skill. But if you're talking about him being able to throw a 9 route, 45, 50 yards up the field on a dime, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see that in the rain. I'd like to see that tested in the rain.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, there's questions out there about Brock. And 49er fans, I think all fan bases get excited about quarterbacks that play well early. And I think it's fair. I mean, we've seen it across the board. I mean, we saw it earlier this year with Dallas's backup quarterback. It's like, he's better than Dak. And then it's like he's better than Dak till he's not better than Dak. You know what I mean? So it happens. I get it. There are things that Brock Purdy definitely needs to answer for sure. I don't think he's been put in too many crazy situations, but so far he has answered the bell. And I think, of course. I think a lot of it is he could be a product of the weapons around him to a certain extent, but a lot like Geno, and you and I had the conversation last time. We'll talk about it here again in a minute, but all you can do is play with who you're playing with and get the ball in the right places. And he's certainly done a good job of that. I think some 49er fans are going a little crazy with it, calling him, Brock Montana and whatever else. But overall, he has definitely answered all the questions thus far, but there are still more that need to be answered. I would agree with that.
Sorry, I hadn't heard that one. That one caught me off guard. Yeah, I like, and I don't want to take away from the fact that he has played well. He has done definitely. He's definitely played way better than I would have expected for the position. So I don't want to sound like he hasn't just been like, well, he's just been dog water and he's got like they keep clean his bowls basically. No, he's good. He's been really really good. I know I'm going to hit you right with this one. I'm going to probably trigger some of the Niner fans out there with this one, but I would say if you have a healthy Trey Lance going up against the same recent competition that Brock Purdy has gone up against, I think he would probably outperform Brock Purdy with all the working stuff he has around him. That's as long, of course, as Shanahan wasn't calling power quarterback runs up the middle, of course. Okay. So that's my belief on it. I could be wrong. Yeah. I don't have any dog in that particular Lance Purdy fight, but that's, if there's a way that I can maybe kind of illustrate my point, that's what I would say to you is that if, I understand that there's people who are really on Purdy over Garoppolo. Well, this is doing all the stuff that Garoppolo couldn't do. He's hitting our tight ends and Garoppolo couldn't hit Kittle and he's actually working Kittle. And okay, yes, he's doing fine. But Garoppolo would be, and I'm not a big Garoppolo guy, man. I'm not a big like, yay, Garoppolo, but I do think Garoppolo in this kind of matchup would be even more, I think he'd be more dangerous for us on this and probably even more Lance with it too. So I like what he's doing, man, but I do think I don't think he's the long-term answer for you guys. I still think that you'd be silly to move off of Lance at this point. It's not his fault. The head coach is calling power runs up the middle on a quarterback. That's silly. That's dumb. That's going to get your quarterback injured.
It was the Seahawks fan that said it. I know he's got the same belief as me, but I didn't pay him to say it. I promise. That's his own opinion. All right, it's his own opinion.
Folks, why run a quarterback on a power run up the middle? I mean, running backs tell you that's where they take all the hits they can't see coming. It's not the Exorcist. They don't have their head on a swivel. Yeah. Where's it at? Where's the linebacker? I don't know. There's one coming this way. There's one coming this way, but I got a lineman down here. Where do you look? I don't know. Oh, I got hit and blasted from a spot I didn't see. When you get out to the sides, that's when you can see. When you guys ran Kaepernick, did you run Kaepernick? You guys used him like a running back against us in the 2013 conference championship game. Mm-hmm. And you go back and watch that game, folks. Those runs weren't going up the middle. He was running. They had Frank Gore lead blocking out in front on the edges and had him out to the side. That's what they were doing with him, getting him into a place where he could control the contact. He had the sideline to his advantage. So, I know it sounds like maybe I'm just jumping on with Jessie. We're of like mind a little bit like this when it comes to Trey Lance. And I'm sorry. I am a believer in Trey Lance still. I think that watching that game earlier this year and them calling that play, that was twice on that drive. They called it, by the way. If I'm not mistaken, it wasn't just once on that drive. That was the second power option run for your quarterback on just that drive alone in the second game of an NFL season, in which there are 17 games in an NFL season.
All right.
You can tell me that that's a long-term plan for health for him? And they go, but Josh Allen, but Josh Allen. Miss me with that.
I love it. Brandon, I love it because you and I definitely agree on that sentiment for sure. Rome, I do want to be clear. You can definitely talk a little trash. Have some fun in the chat. Y'all can talk a little trash. Just don't make it like about teams. Don't be personal. That's all I'm asking. You know what I mean? Like, you can say, hey, the Seahawks suck or 49ers suck or whatever, have some fun with it for sure. Just, don't be going directly at people. Like, you don't know who these people are. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. So, but definitely have fun. Talk a little ish. There's nothing wrong with that. I definitely do it myself. I just don't want anybody to feel like they can't come in the chat and, have a little bit of fun without just being berated. You know what I mean? Dan says, what's the worst turnover margin the Niners can have and still beat the Seahawks? Brandon, you tell me, what is that turnover margin? How many, like, let's say you guys turn it over 2 less times than the 49ers. Would you say that Seahawks win that game?
No, I think that I had 9. I thought a lot about this, actually. I know some people do keys to the game and they just kind of absently put keys to the game on this. I had 9 keys to this game. I don't think that you have to tick all of them, but you probably got to tick about 7 of them to get the win in this game. And that's actually a little bit of an acknowledgement of the respect of how tough this Niner team is to play, because most of the time, if I play a team, I'm going to have 2 or 3 main things: stop the run the ball, we're good. Limit the deep ball, we're good. This is a game that's a little bit more different of that from my standpoint. And there's some very, I think, specific things that you got to do along the trek to win this game. Time of possession, Yeah, we've got to keep it, not win it, but keep it even. The first matchup, you absolutely demolished us 2-1. The second one, you still at us by a good 6 minutes. We got to even that up. Our defense wore down in both of those two matchups. So you got to just nip that in the bud. I do think, yes, the turnover margin, we got to win. I don't think we got to win it by a lot. We got to win it. In addition to my other things that I would say on my list that you got to do as far as keys go. So that's a part that's got to be a key. But in itself, unless you go, I guess 4-0 if you want an answer, because I probably should not just stand the. If we go 4-0 on the turnover margin, we're probably winning the football game. But even going,
I would say so.
Even 3-0, you probably do. But that's why I think that there's more to this than just one key, because again, it's a little bit of indicative of understanding this is a tougher matchup that we're playing at than just simply it being an even Steven matchup where a couple of things need to break right in our direction of things.
Yeah, if you go 3-0 and don't get any points, then what really happened other than you delayed something that the 49ers are doing? You know what I mean? So it's like you got to get the turnovers, then you got to score too, So
100%. And so I think there's a couple of things here with it. That would be one of them though. That's a very important stat. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely. Swift Dog 49er says, what better way to start the playoffs than an amazing division game? Thank you, football gods. Keep crushing it, gentlemen. Let's go 49ers. Thank you so much, Swift Dog. You're right. I mean, this is fun, man. This is a lot of fun. And I gotta be honest with you, Brandon, going into this week, and as I've been kind of navigating through the week, early in the week, the excitement wasn't quite there for me. It didn't feel like it was playoff time already. It had happened so fast. The season ended, a little bit of disappointment there. And then now that we're here and we're 2 days away and I'm talking with you, the more you're talking, the more amped up I am about this. And the more that I'm seeing the chat kind of at each other's neck, the more excited I am about this. So I'm ready now. I am ready. So I'm looking forward to it.
The chat did to me yesterday, Jesse. I got turned on yesterday. I was the same way. I was Monday morning. I was like, good stream last week. Here we go. Tuesday. Yesterday in the chat was like, Niner fans like, and then I was like, all right, it's on. Okay. Oh, we don't got it. And then hearing this stuff. The other thing is hearing through Monday, Tuesday from the pundits, not just the Niner fans, also the national pundits with, talking about us too with it, where you go, okay. And then it is the Niners. And we did want, like I told you, we have a lot of us in the fans that we're looking at going, we want another chance. This feels like unfinished. To quote Marshawn Lynch, I got some unfinished business. That's what this felt like to us. A little bit of unfinished business at play. So good. Yes. We want you hyped up. We want you best punch. We don't want you guys taking us lightly. Let's go. Head to head, strong as it gets. It's on.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, let's switch this up a little bit. Let's talk about your quarterback. And I didn't have this as a topic, but the last time that you and I were on a show together, we had a really good debate around Geno Smith. And at that time, you guys I think we're at the number 2 pick. It's obviously changed since then, but at that time, you're at the number 2 pick. And I said, hey, why not take one of these quarterbacks? Like, is Geno really the long-term answer? And it seemed like not only you, but even in the comments after, most Seahawks fans agreed with you and said, hey, we really believe in Geno and we think that he could be the answer. At least give him one more year. Let's figure this out. Let's take some other things in the draft, some other needs. And, we obviously saw what happened in that game and, what's happened since then. So has anything changed on your front? Do you guys still really believe in Geno? Like, what's the overall thought when it comes to Geno Smith?
Well, I think first I got to be honest in that what directs me on this and guides my own personal opinion on this, because I can't speak necessarily. I think people are overall, to answer your question, they're overall positive about Geno right now. Personally, right now though, I am informed on this by a value standpoint. The same point of the tales from the discussion of Brock Purdy lead into this, in the respect of I look and view it now through a lens of looking towards, you want to really look at how to start to build teams up in the NFL, to me, if you can get the Patrick Mahomes or the Allen or the Herberts or the Burrows, that's great. Those guys are hard to find. They're hard to pick up. Don't want to count on probably the anomaly. Instead, try to find an easier road to me and a path. And if the anomaly happens, then great. Like you stumble on gold, great. Like we stumbled on what Russell Wilson, when he was brought in first to be a game manager, he became so much more great. You got gold. Fantastic. But take it from an approach of value. So yes, I think personally, I'm still way on board with bringing in Geno Smith, but it's got to be at that value point, right? It's got to be at that blue collar contract that hasn't yet really existed in the NFL. Even when you guys signed Garoppolo, which was below top market value, it was still at very high market value in the overall scheme of where the cap was. And so it's either, rich man, poor man a little bit in the NFL from the quarterback position. We've got to find that place that's 20 to 25 million per year, to where now with that extra money, you're able to build up that much more of a team around him. And when you look at the struggles that have been, he's had some up and down moments these back 5 games or so. It's not been all bad. There's been up and down. But when you've seen a little bit of the fluctuation in play, it's been with the loss of the receivers on the outside. It's been with the running game not being able to be consistent at times through this back end of the schedule. It's been with the pass protection, as you saw in the last game against the Niners, starting to fall down, starting to kind of fall apart a little bit there on those edges. Not being bad, but just not being as strong as it was to begin things, where it was giving him clean pockets, time to go through his reads and play the quarterback position naturally. Now he's been under a little more duress. So I think you start to bring back those same factors he got to play with earlier. You get him on the low contract. You get the players that you can build in around, not having to pay your quarterback 45, 50, 55, 60 million, wherever it's going to go this offseason as far as the next guys. You're on to, I think that's a successful pathway to go. I do.
Yeah, keep it inexpensive, a guy that you can trust, a guy that most likely, not most likely, but does need some weapons around him to fully be successful. And I can agree with that. I definitely can get with that. I mean, obviously things have changed since we talked the last time, because now you're not the number 2 pick. The likelihood of one of those 2 quarterbacks even falling to you, the whole conversation has completely changed. I was just curious to see like what the conversation was around Geno. I think that's fair. I think that's definitely a fair take to have with Geno Smith.
I think people do have, he has their support overall, and this game's not going to change it one way or another. So no, I think there'll be some emotional Hawk fans out there that go, either he's amazing or this is why we got to let him go. Most people have their kind of the opinion set. So I think they're also those same people that have that support, though, aren't as married to it as like, oh, this has to be all Geno or nothing too. Whereas if they wanted to go with a quarterback with the number 5 and say, okay, that's where we're picking. And I do think, though, the problem with that, as you just said as well, is I really firmly believe at this point, 3 quarterbacks are going in the top 5 picks. And that's before we pick 3 in the top 4. Sorry.
Yeah.
There will be 3 quarterbacks, in my opinion, that go in the top 4. At least 2 right now we know of need it. And it just takes one team to trade out at that point of the other 2 for a team that needs a quarterback or loves one of these quarterbacks. So I really, that's one of my hot takes that I'd feel real good about. I just about lay money on that. To be honest with you, there will be 3 quarterbacks taken in the top 4 picks.
How upset would you be if the Seahawks went and made a major trade with the Bears, who we assume aren't taking a quarterback, although I don't think there's anything saying that they can't. But let's assume they trade out of that position. They're willing to go to number 5. Obviously, you'd have to give up 5 and some other assets. How would you feel about that? Enough said, man. Enough said.
Why would you even put that in the universe? I don't know. No.
I love it. I love it.
I have no interest whatsoever at all in trading up. You guys learned this yourself. That's not the way to paradise. You know what I mean? That's not 2 tickets. That's not Eddie Money style here. Okay. That's not 2 tickets. That's 2 tickets to somewhere. Right.
Yeah.
But it ain't the paradise. All right.
Yeah.
You're getting on the jet, and it's one of those jets with like chickens on it, right? And a lot of people are like, wait, what's going on? What did I just get on here? I got the ticket. Yep, you're heading somewhere else, my friend. So no, you don't trade up in the drafts to the top of the draft. That's dumb. That's stupid city compared to the value that you have to give up and all the players that you could get up. I'd rather trade back, to be honest with you. Move 5 to 10, pick up an extra first. Look at the teams this year that have benefited from trading for future first round picks and how the return has been. We picked top 5 off of Denver's. I think Philly's got like a top 10 or something like that off the Saints, or a top 12, 13. Then you have the other team being the Lions, who have the Rams pick. They're picking 6 or 7. It's, again, there's a lot of proof for this. You guys just suffered it. You see it all across the board. When everything's telling you don't go a direction, it's like, remember the Bruce Almighty scene where he's driving in the car, he's passing all the signs that are telling him, stop, don't go this way, stop, don't, stop now, don't. He's like, I'm looking for a sign, God, whatever you can give me. And there's no sign being given, and he's not looking at the signs. Like, all the signs are telling you don't do that. So I think we need to yield on this one and just pick where we're picking or move back.
Totally fair. Totally fair. Sorry to throw that out in the ether for you guys, but if it happens, I'm calling you right away.
Secret that thing. I hope you just didn't do that. You just secreted us. We got secreted by Jessie at Last Second Sports, folks.
You're welcome. You're very welcome for that, Seahawks fans. If that's what I can give you on the way out, then
I'm
I
blaming
definitely
you
will
if it
give it to you.
happens. I hadn't
Yeah.
heard anybody even saying that, and now you did. I'm blaming you if it happens.
Let's talk about DK Metcalf a little bit, because DK Metcalf is an absolute beast, but in the 2 games against the 49ers, he only has 90 total yards and 0 touchdowns.
Mhm.
Do you think that he has to have a big game in order for you to win, or at least a better game than what he's been having? And what needs to change in order for him to play better?
Are you guys going to keep rolling your 2 high coverages his way? You going to keep giving him double teams within this?
We might. I mean, I know Lockett's played pretty decent against us.
I mean, call me a football simpleton, but I come from the arena that says that if I've got a receiver on the outside who alone just about play in and play out draws double teams, and I watched the all 22 of the last game. I saw the all 22 rolling his way, rolling. You would have thought there was a party coming to his side of the field. It's weird. It's kind of crazy. So, when it comes to I get this even from my own Seahawks fans about steps Metcalf got to take forward or steps within the game. I will say in that second matchup, I'm not saying Ward didn't play a good game as well, but there was some handsiness that was letting him get away with. You're rolling the double teams. Okay. So if the officials are going to let him play and get all kind of little grabby, and then you get the double teams over the top, it's going to get a little hard on your receiver to get free. He didn't play the cleanest of games on top of that. I will give you that. But I mean, in the first matchup, he went over the top of your cornerback and one-handed it 50 yards down the field. It got called back. Why? Because our lineman took an extra step down the football field in pass protection. So, again, too, it's we're also down near the goal line at the point we had a running back throwing it down near the goal line instead of Gino trying to throw to him there as well. So it's, yes, in certain ways, he didn't have his most productive effort, but still, I will say, as an offense, when I have my design as an offensive coordinator and I have my receiver one on the outside, and I know a high propensity of the time, that receiver is going to command not only that corner's respect, but he's also going to command the safety's respect over the top on a given play. And he's taking away 2 for 1 on a given play. I'm going to be able to usually take advantage of that schematically in other places that don't rely on him to have to then go be Superman around that. And I would offer that if that is your offensive designs to do that with that type of player, you probably don't have a very good offense overall. See Calvin Johnson with Stafford and taking that methodology and approach. So he's fine. He's not a problem. You're not out of line to ask, because again, it's been something I've heard from Hawk fans. But again, look at the end of the year, 1,100 yards. I believe he just turned 25 years old. Just turned 25 years old in December. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he's something like 8th all time in most yards before he's turned the age of 25. So I think he's going to be okay. I think DK is going to be fine. I do.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? That's a matchup though that was really fun to watch last game.
Mm-hmm.
Mooney Ward definitely got physical with him, and we know DK is very physical. It's fun to watch it. It's fun. It is. It feels like a little bit of a heavyweight fight. Somebody said Tyson Holyfield style. I love watching it, and it's the game within the game, and it's those little micro matchups that you watch throughout the game, and you can't take your eyes away from it. That's a fun one for me to watch. It really is.
And I don't mind. I expect with this being a playoff that it's going to be a physical one. And I don't mind it when the refs do let some of that go on. And even if it's beyond the letter of the law, I'm not one of the ones that will complain about it really, unless it's not being consistently called on both sides. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
It's just like in baseball where it's the strike zone's wider today. Well, is it wider for both sides, for both teams? Fine. I can play within the parameters of that. But if I'm seeing them calling our guys on their side, but not calling, that's where I go, oh, okay, hold on. And I'm not necessarily saying that was the case with Ward, but that's when it comes to I'm the same way. I much rather let him play, let it be decided on the field in both directions of that, and let's see how it goes, on that side.
Absolutely. And another big player for you guys, and somebody talked about him earlier or brought him up, but I want to talk about Kenneth Walker as well, because early in the season, obviously he wasn't the guy. And I believe he only got 4 carries against the 49ers in week 2. And then the last game, it was his first game coming off injury, and he got his 12 carries for the 16 total. But, since that game, he really has been, it's not just like he's getting the yards, but he's getting a lot of carries. I mean, we're talking 25, 28, 29 carries. And I would think that that's something that the Seahawks are going to want to continue here. So do you think that Kenneth Walker can have success against this 49ers defense, which is rated number 1 in the NFL against the run? How do you see that matchup playing out?
Yeah, I think it's the thing with having a defense like the Niners is that if there's a hole open, it ain't going to be hole open for very long. right? It's you might get it open. Somebody's going to be there to fill that back up if it does. I do think in some of, like, for instance, the natural wide nine technique, that sometimes gets run by your defensive line, where you get a little bit of those linemen stretched out along the gaps a little bit. That's one of those things where if you have a quick hitting back to the gap who can get to those holes before they then kind of close down, they can take advantage of that. Now, you do have the linebackers and at the second level that they can clean stuff up. So this isn't to say that this is just like, oh, this is the open way to us running the football. But it is a way for him to have success in this football game, is to be attacking those gaps fast. I would argue that I tend to like to see Walker trying to get to the edges, whereas with the San Francisco defense, with its speed that it has and some of that natural gap alignment that you get along the defensive line, I would kind of prefer more of those A and B gap runs, where you are trying to maybe get up into those gaps really quickly with him, with his speed, and just see if he can hit it quick. And then you don't necessarily have to block it up long at that point, because he does have that burst and speed. He's kind of that rare quotient back that gives you a bit of both, right? Usually the speed guys, they're not as necessarily got that 8-yard burst you look for in backs. You get the one or the other a little bit, but he's got them both. That's one of his main two attributes he brings to the table. So it doesn't guarantee success, but that's more of probably a pathway to success. And I don't think he plays much that first matchup, because you felt good about Penny. I mean, he finished off the season's averaging 6.1 yards per carry before he went down. So he was being productive. And he was coming off the hernia thing, I think, in the preseason, was Walker too at the same time. So still trying to recover at that time from that.
Yeah, I really respect Kenneth Walker's game. And, a lot of 49er fans have been talking about, like, oh, we shut him down last game. Like, well, hold on. Like, to be fair, yes, we have the number one running defense, and I do expect them to hold true there. But Walker was coming off of an injury. He may, just to be honest, I thought it sounded like he really pushed it to come back for that game, since the division was on the line potentially. It seems like, hey, if that game didn't have as much meaning, he probably would have sat out. But it was like, okay, there's a lot of meaning here. I'm going to press it. Might have came back a little bit too early. And we saw, as he got his legs under him, started to look much better, albeit against a different defense. So but I do have a lot of respect for Kenneth Walker. I think he's going to be a good player for y'all for a while. And, it was one of those things, like, when he was picked, I was like, gosh, you guys tend to take these running backs a little bit early, but that was a good one. That was a good pick for y'all. And I think that's going to pan out long-term.
It's another one of those great debates in our own fandom about running back value. And of course, analytics are on this, like, fly on poop, where it's just like, you can't do this with a running back early and da 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 da. And it's going to come up against this year, because there's a variety of backs in this draft that are really fun to watch and could potentially draw themselves up into potentially first round discussion. So you're going to see this breakout amongst a lot of fan bases, I think, as the draft period, ramps up. But you're right. I don't even think he's 100% from the foot injury as it is right now. He broke off a 60-yarder the other day, and at the end of the run, it felt a little like he was carrying his foot with him, just a bit. It wasn't bad. Like, he's limping like something out of, Scrooge or something with Timmy. But it was like he was kind of maybe favoring just still a little bit with it. And again, the research I did on this did point back to maybe this going back a little bit with him to his even back to like high school days or something. So I don't know where it is. It's not like a bone thing. It's like something between the bone and the meat and the bone. There's some little like soft thing in between. I'm not a doctor.
Medical analysis is on point on this podcast.
Those are the exact medical terms, by the way.
Yeah.
In between it, el doctors on the boneth. Yeah. So he's probably better than he was when he was in that game. Still not probably 100% healthy. I'd recommend he's probably like 95% or so, I would bet, in this game, but still absolutely dangerous. And you're right about the last game as well, because this is the other point of that. You need him for that game. Why? Because your other backs Penny's gone for the year. Travis Homer comes into that game with his ankle turned bad, so he can't really run. Homer's, coming back himself, I think, in that one from an injury. So you didn't want to get down to your fifth, sixth guy. You wanted your main guy against a Niner team. You knew you needed that. So I agree. That's a good point on your part.
When I go to the doctor for my knee injury, I hope that he diagnoses me just the way that you did. He goes, you got some bone here, and you got some meat, exactly. And then in between there's some things that are happening.
There's a whole lot of gunk in there. It's kind of plasticky, but between the shell and the meat and the bone, the plasticky, it's kind of spinning up there like a circle. Okay. We're just going to get in the plasticky stuff. We're going to separate that out. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You got to raise the shell over the bone through the meat, right to the plastic.
Right in that plastic. Yeah, I got it. No, I totally, I feel it. I know, and I know what you mean. That's the crazy thing.
It's medical. It's
Imlek
science.
says, hey, Jesse, if the Niners win the Super Bowl, are you going to the Super Bowl celebration, downtown parade in San Francisco, Santa Clara? Yeah, that is actually the plan. That is actually the plan. Obviously, I live in Tampa, but that is something that I have definitely let my wife know. I say, just so you know, if the Niners win the Super Bowl, I plan on being there. So no pushback from her. So that is the plan. Let's hope that they get there. We're definitely a few weeks away from that, but that would be a ton of fun if it can happen for sure.
Yeah, you got to do it, dude. I did, and we won the Super Bowl. I was in New York, and I definitely was kicking myself because the whole city just poured into the streets. So you got to do it. Got to do it.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things that you have to be there for. Absolutely. All right, Brandon, we've talked a lot, and you said you have, around 9 things that you're really looking at in this game. But if you could just boil it down to either just one thing that you're really putting a lot of emphasis on, or a player, weather, anything, what for you is that one X factor going into this game that could really decide things?
I think that you got to come into this game from a Seahawks standpoint. We could go into the particulars, but if you want to go high level on this, which all that stuff's informed by, you got to come into this, like I led at the top, and understanding that this is a gravy situation and that you're in a unique situation when people normally get to the playoffs, there's some kind of expectation there as you get in that playoffs from the fan base, from the national stage, whatever you want to apply there. You're going into this game without that. You're going into this game with a top 5 first round pick, also a top 5 second round pick. You've got a bunch of money to spend. You have a young team on the rise, 6 rookies you started. Nobody's looking this year and not looking at it as anything but a highly successful season. So if that's the case, let that inform this strategy for this game. Let it all hang out. Hold nothing back. Do the wild and crazy. Do all the stuff that all the coaches are scared to the bottom of their boots on a weekly basis to try to do. Do that this week. Why not? Why not up against this type of opponent? Why not in this kind of given situation? It's a little bit like the game, remember a couple years ago with Oklahoma and Boise State, right? Remember that game? One of the great upsets in college history, and they're running Statue of Liberty plays and everything else out between. I loved watching the Lions last week with the hook and ladder. I loved watching the 4th down attempt that wasn't going to be, hey, we've run the ball well all day, but who needs to run? Let's pass. We got Jared Goff with his 2 gloves. No fear. Playing to win. Letting it all hang out. Especially in that first matchup against you guys. I felt like we played very safe, don't want to lose it. Are our rookies going to hold up against these pass rushers? We're kind of scared. Can't play it scared. Can't play it in that way. Can't play it with any kind of fear in our hearts. Got to go at this to try to win this game, and let's go take it. And so from a coaching standpoint, lay it all on the line. Walk into this game and go, hey, leave nothing on the shelf. Let it all out there and play with a freedom and a sense of freedom of understanding. We could get our doors blown off in this game, and it won't mean jack diddly squat come Monday morning. Ain't nobody care. Seahawks fandom will be looking brightly to that top 5 pick in the future that's on the way. But if you can pull it off by pulling out all the stops, why not take that approach? So above anything else, trick plays, go for a 4th down, right? Don't play it safe. Play it free. Go for it. Like that. That's why I think those Lions won that game on Packers. That coaching staff had instilled to them, we're going in to win this, and we're going to show you we're in here to win this with our play calling, with how we're guiding and directing you. I'd love to see the same thing from my team this week and Coach Carroll.
It's funny you say that, because I was talking earlier with some friends on Twitter and the Twitter Spaces, and that's something that I said too. Is I just feel like the Seahawks are going to come in and do some extra things, try to get a little bit tricky. Somebody brought it up on my show, like a fake punt type situation. Yeah, absolutely. I think if Seattle and San Francisco just line up, the 49ers, I don't think this is any secret. They're the more talented team. And in order to win, you're going to have to do something a little bit special. And I think that the Seahawks are definitely going to have some tricks up their sleeve. Depending on down situation, we might see some interesting things happen, a la Lions versus the Packers, hook and ladder style. I think that those things are going to be expected. And I hope that the 49ers are ready for them as they can be, knowing that that's probably going to come their way. Try not to get too caught off guard, flea flickers, whatever it's going to be. There's going to be some craziness that happens in this game. And I think that's what makes it interesting and fun, because you're probably going to see the 49ers be a little bit more conservative from that aspect. You're probably not going to see a lot of crazy trick plays. I think you're going to get that from the Seahawks, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and it definitely could turn this game upside down, at least for a moment, throughout the 4 quarters. So I'm curious to see when that happens and if it works.
You got the pressure, to your point, that there is a little pressure here towards the Niners here that it is us.
Yeah.
Like the pressure's not on us. I mean, if you lose, it's like, you'll know how this will be. It'll be like you're walking people off cliffs, and now the Lance Purdy debate gets hot, and then, well, no, you got the Garoppolo people coming back into the room. Like, wait, no, we didn't get far in the playoffs. What about me? Oh, I'm still here. It would get a little bit, not fun. And that's that pressure. There's no not fun part for us on the end of this result. There isn't. Everything's going forward, full steam ahead with this boat, regardless of what happens in this game. So that does make us, it makes us dangerous a little bit, Jesse. It's that, beware of that cornered animal, wild animal cornered. You might have yourself a net, but it may not be a big enough net. Like Jaws, you should have brought a bigger boat.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I mean, that's exactly what's going to happen. If somehow the 49ers lose this, you're going to have the fan base split 3 different directions, and it's going to get wild. A lot of finger pointing is going to happen. The Kyle Shanahan, craziness is going to come back. I mean, there's a lot of things that could go bad. And that's one thing I said, for Shanahan, I don't think it's a must win a Super Bowl, but there's 2 things that can't happen from a Shanahan-led team in this playoffs. It's you can't lose round 1, and you can't blow another 10-point lead. As long as you don't have either of those things happen, you're okay.
Especially now that it's the high. If it had been the Packers, if Rodgers comes in and he beats Shanahan, I mean, there's going to be more of a contingent, I think, in the Niner fan base that goes, well, okay, it's Rodgers coming in here and doing this. I mean, but if it's Seattle with us this year coming in and doing, oh Lordy. Yeah, the pitchforks will be out for Shanahan, and that's tough. That's rough, especially if it's like it was with the Bears game, man, where it was like where the conditions are just insane, and it's just like, I mean, how are they even playing? Why are they even playing a football game on this day? Like one of those kind of games where you're just like, really? Like, I mean, how they can't even walk on the field right now, much less get up to a trot. What are they going to do here? That's football.
And that's the X factor too. I mean, the weather could change things in either direction. It does. Been looking at it very closely. It looks like the rain should taper off around 11 a.m. So depending on when they pull that tarp, the field could be in good condition. Definitely, it looks like it's going to rain throughout, but it's going to be more of like a light drizzle. Mm-hmm. So hopefully it stays that way. I think for both teams. Me too. I just want to see a game, right? And whether the 49ers win or lose, if it's just a super sloppy conditions, like you're just not getting the best product on the field. And that's what I want. I want to see the best product on the field from both teams. And let's just see what happens. But, rain and wind and these things happen in the playoffs. Cold weather, snow, like these are the factors that you got to deal with sometimes. And they can be the great equalizers. So we'll see how that plays into it too.
Nothing worse than that moment like you had your guys' Bears game in the first game where like the ball is going up in the air and then it lands on the ground and it just goes.
Yeah.
And you're just like, and nothing just makes you go like, oh, what are we doing here? Like, I agree with you. I would like to see a relatively clean game in that respect. I'm not a huge fan of it being played in the elements because it does seem to just kind of add a randomized quotient to it,
Yeah, 100%. Jason, Seahawks fan, obviously says
Jason.
Hawks rule, Niners drool. Good
Let
job,
him know.
boys.
Let him know, Jason.
I love it. All right, let's just get down to brass tacks, Brandon. You got to give me a score prediction. The last time we were together, you were very, very realistic, and you at that point you said, "Listen, I love my Seahawks. Division on the line. I don't see them winning this game." And you actually gave it to the Niners. And actually, now that I go back, I think your score was actually very, very close. So in this game, how you feeling? I mean, I feel a little bit different this time around. The last time we talked, I could tell that it was going towards you picking the Niners, just the way you were talking, but I feel a little bit different about this one. I feel like you might be leaning towards the Seahawks. Why don't you tell me what your score prediction is?
So we're gonna go through this game, and it's gonna be a tight game. I think the elements are going to impact it. Not to the greatest degree, but to a degree of tampering down, let's say, a high scoring type contest. It's gonna go to be 20-20, and it's gonna go into the overtime. 20-20.
Oh, I like this.
So we're getting bonus ball. And then it's going to come down to a turnover, but I just can't. It's like I can see the picture in my mind, but I can't see who's the person getting the turnover and returning it back for a touchdown. It's not actually the offense scores in overtime. It's a defender actually gets it on one of the teams and takes it back for a final score to close it out in dramatic fashion. But I usually can see the image, it's like it's kind of fuzzy right now, It's
Is
like
it Dre Greenlaw or Fred Warner possibly? Or
I'm seeing some red, I'm seeing some blue, some rain, and a football, and somebody running clear. They're running in the open field clear. I can see like this, but I just can't. The colors are all kind of going together when it's fuzzy like that, They just also I don't know. It's hard to say on that, man. I can't, I'm torn on this one between my heart and my brain, and then wondering a little bit about how this stuff is going to be equalized by the nature of the division matchup, by the nature of being a team 3 times in a row. And again, I know that stat was brought up, so that certainly doesn't help me to predict. Well, actually, that means you're going to lose. But with the weather it is and where this team is, and again, just the thought process of the team coming in has got this a lot to lose here. I don't know, man. I'm having a hard time giving you a score prediction on this one. I am. I do think that it really could go into overtime. I do think it's a 1-score game at the end of this. What the hell? I'll give my Hawks a win here. 23-20. We pull it out with the all-pro Jason Myers kicking a kick at the end of the game.
I like it. I like it. This is what I wanted.
Go.
I wanted you to pick the Seahawks. I think it makes it a little bit more fun for sure. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, if it goes to overtime, Brandon, I'm gonna text you and be like, man, I don't know how you did this, but this is crazy, absolutely crazy. You know what? I am in agreement with you that the rain and just the playoff atmosphere, 2 teams that know each other, I could see it being a little bit lower scoring. The 49ers have really been putting up a lot of points lately, but the last time they played Seattle, they only got to 21, if I remember correctly. So, why not? You had some rain, you had some wind. I could see it being similar to that. I actually think we're going to have a very similar score. I'm going to go 23-13 Niners. But if it's a 10-point spread, which is interesting because normally you get 10.5 or 9.5, it's at 10 points, or it was. I would take the Seahawks in the points. I mean, 10 points for either team's a lot. I do think the Niners can win by 10. I just don't think they win by 11. Which makes it interesting. So I would take the 49ers. But if I was betting, I would take the Seahawks in the points just because 10's a lot to give up. It really, really is. Even though I do think the 49ers win by 10, I wouldn't bet that way. Like I'm not that confident in it, but I am confident in the Niners win. I do think that they move on here and face, either the Vikings or the Giants. And, like I said, not quite as sweet as the NFC Championship where you guys got us back in the day, but a little bit of revenge headed your way. Much deserved, Seahawks fans.
And it'll feel even sweeter if you get to the Super Bowl and win it too, because you got to have that be a part of the process.
That's true.
So
that's true.
It will in retrospect on that feel even probably on somewhat of an equivalency level and we got to slay those who did us dirty back in the day, Spock style, cold dish, revenge, all that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Kenny G says, tell your boy bad news. Hawks getting smacked 37-20. 37. You think we're putting up 37 in the weather? Oh, man.
Oh, I've been hearing it, Kenny. I've been hearing it all week. Don't you worry, buddy. I've been hearing it all week loud and clear. You know who else has been hearing out there? It's out there in Renton. They've been hearing that loud and clear, too. I wonder what it could do for a mentality of an NFL football team being told nationally and by the opponent's fan base over and over again that they don't even belong on the field, that they don't even belong in competition with them. You can't even say their name in the same name as you speak the Niners. I wonder what possible reaction that could drive. I wonder what bulletin board-like material could be brought about. I don't know. I just ponder these kind of things, Jesse.
Megan says 27-24 Hawks. Actually,
go, Megan.
I do got to ask you about this because I think everybody's really talking about this way too much, and I don't want to necessarily talk about what Pete Carroll fully said, where he's like, oh, unfortunately it's the Niners, because I think he's definitely playing a little bit coy there. But I do want to talk about the video that came out with, Pete Carroll on the scooter, and you got Geno doing the gritty. I would say the Seahawks looked very, very loose in practice this week. They really are coming into this game like, who cares? Like, If we lose, we lose. We're expected to lose. I really think Seattle, not only Pete Carroll, but the team is taking on that persona of like, whatever, like it is what it is. We're coming in loose. And I do find that interesting. And I think, the Niners are confident as well, but the Seahawks seem very, very loose coming into this game.
It's just not your typical, like I said, only teams get in the playoffs. Their coach is trying to keep his job, and he just did enough to get through. And now he's got to get this one more win to hold my job, or, variety of different, or you got places like Shannon where it's like, it's not Super Bowl or bust, baby. Super Bowl or bust, baby. That's what it is, Shanahan. Anything short of you getting us to the Super Bowl right now this year, I'm telling you, that seat's getting hot. And then you got other ones that, it's all these guys in a variety of positions, absent your Andy Reid's, your Carroll types that are just, they're comfortable and they're cozy. And so, yes, I think that there is a different kind of mindset. I think your Niners have done everything that you would want your team to do to lay the championship groundwork for the season. You can hear Bosa talking about it, and the team is bought in. The team's not out. God, guys, sounds like going out partying, right? You get that point where you get that point. Okay, no one out doing any stuff. Everybody's going home, going to bed, getting your 8 hours of sleep. Everybody's waking up, living, breathing ball. That's all you're doing, and I think you guys are there with it. But there is that also that just make sure you're on point, make sure everything's going. We've got to get this done. And then there's we just lose, baby. We just free and easy over here. Like, what's going to happen? What are you going to do? Okay, let's go. And I do think there is that mentality of play. Now, does it equal out to a win? I don't know. But does it, I think, help to keep us in this game this week? You better believe it. Do I think that you guys are going to come 37-20 on us? No, I don't. No, I don't. Not at all.
Yeah, I think 37 is a lot of points. Jet Black, I think I might have missed this one, said Ward has proven himself to be a shutdown corner. I don't know if I know I read it to myself, but I don't remember if I read it out loud. Either way, I agree. He certainly has. And there was a super chat here down low. Peyton, go ahead and I don't know what happened to it. I don't see it anywhere. Go ahead and type your question or your comment now. Put it in all capital letters, and I'll pull it up, brother. I apologize. I did not mean to miss it. I just didn't see it. So Alex says, I'm a new member. Appreciate you. Kenny G says, Jessie over here being nice. Stop it, Jessie. Stop it. Hey, listen, I'm respectful. I'm definitely respectful.
Jessie and me we're the content creators in the bar room, and the brawl's happening all around us. And the bottles are flying past her face, and we're just sort of like, he's handing me a bottle, we're just sort of taking a drink and sort of taking it all in. That's all that's going on.
That's exactly it. It's like the anchor brawl on Anchorman. There's a lot of chaos going around, but we're just calm. We're calm over here.
Trident flying past our face, like, was that a trident? Yeah.
Yeah. Twisted Cloud says Niners would have been on a bye. Top two teams. Yeah, it would have. I mean, old format for sure. Listen, the seventh team is a money grab by the NFL. We know what it is, but they're not on a bye. They're not. Although, us 49er fans seem to think that it could be a bye situation, the way we're talking. So I hear it. I feel it. Megan says
so we have no pressure on snaps, us. Right? Bosa's only getting 15 snaps. Yeah. We don't want to stress him. We need him for next week. All right.
We got to save him. We got to save him for the next game. Megan says we have no pressure on it.
Happen out there somewhere, man. I joke, but there's a chat somewhere with somebody. Do we really need to run Bosa like 70% of the snaps this game? I mean, like 30 will do, right? 30%.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is too. Megan says we have no pressure on us. Like I said before, this is all bonus for us, and we have nothing at all to lose. Game on, boys. Game on. I love it. All right, here's Peyton's question or comment from earlier. What will the Seahawks do to game plan around Mitch Wishnowsky? Can they slow him down? It's Mitch season. You know what? I think you're half joking, but at the same time, Mitch is having a really good season. I mean, he's got those knuckleball punts. He's definitely been pinning teams back deep. And here's a stat for you, Brandon. The 49ers are first in the league in starting field position defensively and offensively, believe it or not. So the 49ers start just inside their own 31-yard line on average. Mm-hmm. And the defense has opposing teams starting just inside the 26 on average. And both of those are first in the league. And, you look at it, you say, okay, 5 yards, not a lot, but over the course of 12 possessions, I mean, you're getting essentially 60 extra yards to spotted each and every game. That's a big deal. It really is a big deal.
It is a big deal. I think it's a bit of a what you get is kind of the happy sort of fallout from you have the best defense in the league, and then you have an offense that's built to move the chains. And so that does mean that offense, they're getting that ball at the 31, but they're going to get up to the 50 with a couple first downs, even in a worst case scenario of getting stopped. That's why we adopted this very same offense of a West Coast offense. That's the designs of it, to give you more of the chain moving consistency. It might not always get you the points or the explosive points, but it will give you the chain consistency. And if you're consistent enough, you'll get the points because you'll move those drives, up the football field. I think it also, within your point, I think what your main thing was trying to say is that you have a great special teams unit on top of that. And indeed you do. Luckily for us, according to Football Outsiders, which I've got no doubt, they say that we have the number one special teams unit. So that same flipping of the field stuff that you talk about is what we have as well. I think our kickers missed 2 kicks. Our punter's had his best year of his career, and he's had a great year to start, by far the best in Seahawks history, punter in Seahawks history, Dixon. So I think that's again another spot where I think both these two teams are both going to be able to flip the fields. They're going to both push the offenses in a position to have to drive far up the field, absent somebody making a mistake. I think we'll put Lockett back there to do the sure-handed stuff. So you're not going to see us trying to even really return it. It's just going to be back him, just fair catch, take it. But both of these two punters can absolutely flip the field. Your guys' special teams unit, if we're number one, I'm sure you're top 5, if not top 3 within that. Because I know you guys have a very good unit all the way around. It's another part. You don't have to sign us Hawks fans up. I long say it. I think you get it too, where a lot of fan bases throw off the special teams unit as this thing that doesn't matter, or that it's sort of this, third leg to the team, this small stubby leg, you got the other 2 legs and there's a little tiny leg holding the rest up. It's not that. In many respects, it's a huge part of the game. And if you turn it into a weapon, it can help you win football games over the course of the season. It can help make it easier to win football games over the course of the season. I think both of these coaches recognize it. I think we definitely I try to give my props to Carroll for it. And you should certainly give Shanahan his props, because it's not just a by happenstance thing. You have to purposefully take an approach of valuing it and building your roster around it and making sure you have the right coaches in it to make it that kind of dynamic element. It's more than just having a good punter or having a good kicker. It's the commitment to the whole aspect of it to make it that weapon.
Yeah, 100%. Alex Music says, me being a Lions fan and a Seahawks fan, I think you just hate the 49ers, man.
We were doing sea lions last week. I call ourselves, we were sea lions. So, we're doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing my lion call on my channel.
That was, it's crazy because going into that game, a lot of people are like, oh, they have nothing to play for. I'm like, I don't know if you know Dan Campbell, but he's going to have that team ready to go. And I promise they're not going to disappoint. I didn't expect them to win, but I knew they would give everything they had in that game. And they certainly did just that.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers' crocodile mouth got his butterfly ass bit is what happened with that. Because you heard Deshaun Elliott talk about it in the week leading up to that about, number 12 over there doesn't respect us. Number 12 over there doesn't da. Number 12 over there, da. And you know what? That's right. They got a rallying cry. And why did they do that? You got Aaron Rodgers at his press conference on the loss early in the year going, you can't lose to a trash team like that. You just can't lose that kind of crap team. Like, you know what I mean? You lit a fire in them for later in the year, which they might not have had otherwise, and they might have just played you like it's the end of the year, we're going to the Lambeau. And I think that he kind of did with that a little bit. And that's, it's be careful how much dripping you do.
He did. He got cocky, and not only that, but when they went on their winning streak, he's like, a lot of people were talking, and where are you at now? And it's like, well, I mean, you didn't make the playoffs, but that's pretty rough. You set yourself up there a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Especially this year, Aaron. This is the year where you pipe it down and you take your lumps, and you're like, yeah, this is gonna be a rough one. I got these rookie receivers. I'm not gonna pull this thing together. This is gonna be no.
Ken Fashion Journey says, hi, Jesse. I just subscribed to LSS2. Congrats on the new channel. Yeah, that's pinned in the chat there. That is all NFL content, so not just 49ers and Lions like the channel here. So it's going to be all NFL content, a little bit different format for sure. If you are interested in that, or you just like rocking with us, make sure you subscribe to that. I'm also going to say, make sure you subscribe to Brandon's channel. Link is in the description. If nothing else, Niner fans, I promise you, if the 49ers win, you're going to want a Seahawks chat to flood. That's the one. If you're going to flood anybody's, Go flood his, have some fun with it. Link is in the description. Go show him some love over there as well. He just gave us an hour and a half of his time, and that is pretty damn awesome of him on wildcard weekend. We just got a great show out of it because he was so generous with his time. So go show him some love as well.
Appreciate you, Jesse. Thank you.
BMF Ranger says, I'm a new member. I appreciate you, BMF Ranger. And that is it. We are 2 days away from this showdown. At this point, essentially 36 hours. I cannot wait. I can't wait till Saturday. This is going to be a ton of fun. Brandon, as always, thank you for being gracious with your time, brother. We will definitely talk next season, but good luck to your Seahawks, but not too much good luck. You know what I mean? Not too much good luck.
I mean, kind of the same to you, like good luck, but not really. Like good luck, but I hope you guys flame out completely. No, but I mean, like seriously, like I hope you guys the best, and I want you to raise Lombardi 20 or 30 years from now. That's just all I'm saying with it. Just at that point, it'll be good for you at that point, but just seriously, you guys got to die this year. Sorry, but it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Peace.